What it do? How y'all lovely people doing? How y'all lovely people doing? Hope y'all doing well. Hope y'all being peaceful and everything. Hopping back into episode 4. Tweak settings. You feel me? Visually, stream wise, and video wise. So welcome to the stream. Welcome to the video for my It Just Lazy. We're playing Skyrim Star Wars Edition. We're playing with just mods. We're just having fun, but we're doing quests, the story, all the shebang. I just enjoy Skyrim, but I really play it how I want to play it. So if you guys feel inspired, want to look into the game, go and check it out because I think it's still on sale. If you're looking for a fantasy RPG, just get away from all the Call of Duty and all the gunshots and do it in your own way, check out Skyrim. I highly suggest it. Those who's into Middle Earth and things of that nature. But I hope y'all having a decent day. We're gonna hop right into it. We're gonna see how everything plays out. Like I said, everything's tweaked to perfection. Had to ask good old, not ChatGPT, but DeepSeek, but ChatGPT, whatever you call it, for a little bit of advice. So I saw the last video. I was not happy with it. I was not, but I had to take care of some business, my personal life. So note to self for y'all. Feel like you can just put off things, just wait for it to work itself out. Sometimes you gotta put some fire on your ass and get shit done, one way or another, even if you don't like it. But it's nighttime. It's 12 in the morning. I'm gonna wait for 8 hours when the sun is really out. There we go. Alright, so I'm gonna check everything out on the Twitch, and then we'll continue on. Hold on, where my holes at? There we go. Alright, there we go. I'm like, yo! Alright, so I'm gonna have this right here out to the side so I'm gonna watch myself. Y'all watch me. Alright, so. But for those who's interested in the mod list that we have got going on, these are the mods that's loaded into this mother trucker right now. I'm out here growing off in the background. Lightsaber, This one is the, this one, no, not this one. Not that one. That one's okay. I like to have options, I might take it out because it's not really helping me now, but it does like crazy damage. Is my purpose? No. Gotta have that. Infinite whip charge. Gotta have that. I'm working on getting this right here. It's a work in progress. But we're gonna see about it. Free. Which one is it? Oh, this one. I think it's this one right here. This one right here, crazy good. So this is what we're working right now. The blue and orange. I was gonna do the purple, but it is what it is. And her health bar is down there. We have already seen some glitches, but like I said, it's not perfect. But it's just enough. I like the Star Wars lore and everything. I just enjoy space samurais. Who doesn't love space? Yeah, I better see firsthand. I'm supposed to be going that way, but I see a house, and I want a second house. I stole one house from a witch bitch. Must be up there on the hill. But from a visual aspect, I think everything's looking pretty nice. ChatGPT is something different, It gives you just enough. Give you exactly what you need. Is it down here? It's down here. Oh. Got me going. All types of different places. Lucky. So it's like a lake house. Damn. happened to you? It collapsed on him, probably. Move this out the way. Move! 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 There you go. Why can't I still get it? Am I crouched? How do I get in here? How? Listen, what the fuck is this? Hold on, what is this? Effects. Kill moves, spellcast. Oh, okay. Blessing of the Bella. Tragic. Ass up, face down. Tragic. You had a lot of loot though. Ooh, treasure. Ooh, piece of candy. I'm gonna take the hood because I like different hoods. I like different choices of hoods. And I'm gonna take the gloves. I like gloves. Right. Everything else you can stay. Tragic. Can't get that book though. Let me get them books off your hands. We got some food. I'll take that, man. What's this? Apple. Tomato. There's a book in here? Hold on. Light armor. I'll take it. You can sell it. Give it a bull. Damn, man. I mean, if you had like a crate or something like that, I would love to live here. I mean, is this a dresser? No, this is a cabinet. Cupboard. Alright, cool. We got this. So, we're supposed to be going towards the Gray Man. So yeah, I say Gray Man. Gray Beards. Alright, so. Yeah, okay, cool. What's that? Oh, a bunny. Who that? Who that? Who that? Oh shit. Didn't even ask no questions. Did they? Damn! I forgot they got the blinks. No questions asked. Fuck you talking about? Fuck you talking about? Lightning arrows? Oh. So. Look at you. Dead. Dead as fuck. Alright. Get all that work just for nothing. I might take the blicks away from him because it's gonna be like a quick shoot. They're gonna light everybody up like a freaking Christmas tree. Alright, so light them up, light them up, light them up. Hold on, where am I going? Before I started going. Did I pass my stop? No, I'm coming up to my, coming back up to my corner, so. At the fork in the road, take a right. That lightning. It was in the forecast. So is this the fork in the road? keep missing it. It's so quick. It must be on the side of the road type. That's off the. Gotta be off the road.
Be wary for
There it
traps.
is. Okay, cool.
If you spy one, try to get an enemy to trigger it.
Cool. There we go. Back on the right path. I think. I'm directionally challenged. Alright, so I think I'm going right. No, that's. Alright, so I go up this. Alright, cool. I think. I think I can. Oh yeah, I'm on it. Okay, just follow the little paved out area. Man, seeing no beastlies. I'm trying to have me a three-man squad. I'm probably gonna do like the vampire storyline in a second, so I can get a shutty. But that's a nice little dungeon. All right, continue on. Oh. I must learn the ways of the old elder Jedi elders, so I can yeet people off the mountain. Hey, little foxy, where'd you go? Is it good or bad? Yeet. I ain't gonna say none of y'all. You know what? There we go. You know what? Y'all gonna let y'all do y'all. You gonna hold the brother down. I should be getting some berries and stuff. Look at that view down there. You're gonna be mine. Is that a yeah? You over there? You gonna be mine. I'm gonna take you down. Got a call from your mama. They ain't gonna come save you. All right, let me go on and do a quick save real quick. But yeah, I'm not gonna cheese it. I want to have some type of difficulty. Oh, let's see, Ember. I'm gonna keep the Ember because I really haven't fought with that one a lot. Not on the visual. And I'm gonna take this one off. So. I gotta switch hands. Wait, I can do both? Oh no, I got double. Right. Just the right hand. There we go. Alright, cool. Yeah, see not a soul, but we're out coming up on somebody though. gonna take care and take this little mountain, little castle. You know, see what they working with. See what kind of loot they get. The fallen Imperial Gate discovered. Imperial. So what? So this is all this is? A freaking gate? That's all? Oh, okay. Oh, hold on. The heck was that? What were you? What was that? I don't know the lore. Huh. Like it goes somewhere. Alright, basically what we were doing before curiosity got to us. I thought it was gonna lead us somewhere. Didn't really take us nowhere. Alright, keep going. What's up? What the hell? Oh, what's this? Oh. Okay, just continue. I gotta go through the gate. Alright. How many of y'all actually went running today? I went outside, you know. Got some good on vitamins, you know. Ate an apple, you know. Trying to do healthy, trying to be healthy. Exercise in the house, you know. Get off your butts and do something. Be productive. Watch me is productive. I'm not talking about that, but I'm talking about everything else. Be productive. Light him up. Light him up. Let his ass slump. Stupid. Stupid. Slumped his head. Oh, slumped him. That's what happens. Like you, this was exactly what happened. Take this back into slavery. Give somebody a switch or AR-15, better just a pistol, a modern pistol. Take them to the 1800s. Talking about reparations. Talking about reparations. Slave men where? Right there. Dang, bro. You didn't even stand a chance. Nope. You ain't got no loot. You dead. You been dead. That troll was having a good old time consuming y'all. Ooh, look at that. It was slaughtered. Slaughtered. Troll skull. They're cannibals. Freaking cannibal. I thought we were gonna have sense. Both of them died tragically. Sadness. They didn't stand a chance. That troll was built different. If I didn't have them shorties, then I probably would have been like somewhat difficult situation, but you know, well, but never know. No. Looking for a map though. Please continue on. Where is it? There it is. I think that's a cave though. Is that a cave? I walked into a wall. Alright. So, ooh, maybe something's in there. Nothing. I need to go up top. Yeah, I do. That's some beautiful ass water. Pretty sure that's how the Mississippi River used to look like until, you know, pollution. Is it that way? No. This way. I'm guessing depending on the situation, they bring out the blades and the swords. So let me see. She got the hooks in one. you got them full. Oh man, unfortunate. All right. How y'all doing? How y'all lovely people doing? I know y'all got some dialogue. What's up?
Oh, you're a traveler. You must have so much to tell about the world outside this boring town.
Yeah?
The Greybeards are a strange bunch. I heard they live their entire life without uttering a single word. Can you even imagine?
That's all you gotta say? That's crazy.
I wish I could go with you.
You must be another pilgrim on the way up to High Hrothgar. No other reason to pass through. Honest pay for honest work. Honest pay for honest work. Honest pay for honest work. It's frightening living below their monastery. Sometimes I swear I can hear strange noises rolling down from up there. It sounds like thunder, but there's never any rain. What do you make of that?
That's all you gotta say? Alright.
Sure, leave. Everyone else does.
I mean, I will cuff you, but they don't give me that system, so, you know. A harem will be lovely. Alright. What's up, cuz? You don't know me.
The Greybeards have summoned the Dragonborn to High Hrothgar. Such a thing has not happened for hundreds of years.
What the Damn. Y'all just walking past like this shit ain't.
What happened?
I don't know. You tell me. I just came up here. Y'all walking past a dead body like this shit ain't just like, like, I feel like one of y'all doing some freak shit. Look, this is what we call sundown town. And then everybody was acting up like, no.
Oh, you're a traveler.
Oh, shut up.
You must have so much to tell about the world.
If you ever settle down
outside
to
this
have
boring
children,
town.
think twice
I wish I could
before
go
you
with
do
you.
it.
What's good, bro? What you mean by that?
My daughter's driving me crazy. So forgive me if I'm a bit on edge. They call it the path to the monastery to 7,000 steps. Can you imagine? I'm not certain if I could even make it to the top without collapsing from exhaustion.
I help. I do the chores. What else would you have me do?
I know your sights are set beyond this town, but for now, while you're under our roof, I need you to pitch in a little more.
Yes, Mother.
Damn.
Just get out of town as fast as you can. Nothing for anyone here.
You have to let Fastrid follow her heart. You can't tell her what to do.
She's our only child. Am I to throw her to the wolves?
You're hardly throwing her to the wolves. She just wants to see the world, just like I did when I was her age.
And if she decides to leave Iverstein, what then? No. No, I can't bear the thought.
So I'm guessing, is she like a love interest? I can like, you know, cuff? Or is she just her? Yeah, I'm just gonna take y'all stuff, you know what? Y'all been working hard, Harvest.
Any idea how I can get my daughter's head out of the clouds? You a pilgrim or just passing through?
Well, I mean, y'all working hard, but, you know, you got something better to do.
Oh, you're a traveler.
Thank you.
You must have so much to tell about the world outside this boring town.
The fact that they ain't telling me to steal it is like, nope, give me that. Y'all don't need that.
Fastrid, I wanted to talk with you.
What is it now?
Wilhelm said he saw you speaking to one of the pilgrims on the 7,000 steps. I told you that I didn't want you to go up there.
I know what you said, but I only wanted to speak to him for a moment.
Well, it stops now, and that's
Shut that shit up.
driving
I will,
me crazy.
bruh.
Have
So
anything
forgive me if I'm a
interesting to
bit
tell
on
me?
edge.
A part of me just wanted to sound like sling, 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 sling,
Never
sling.
settle down to have children. Think twice before you do it.
Yeah, I'm guessing there's a full-blown fight that went broke out. They both lost. What they know about it though?
On your way up the 7,000 steps again, Klimek?
Passing through on your way to High Hrothgar? Mostly food supplies like dried fish and salted meats. You know, things that keep fresh for a long time. The Greybeards tend not to get out much, if you catch my meaning. Well, it's kind of an understanding between us. I mean, it just wouldn't feel right to charge them for a bit of preserved food. Trouble is, my legs aren't what they used to be, and climbing the 7,000 steps takes its toll. Really? Well, that would be kind of you. Here, take this bag of supplies. At the top of the steps, you'll see the offering chest. Just leave the bag inside, and you're done. I've been to the monastery many times, but I've never even laid eyes on one of the Greybeards. Not that I'd care to. Being masters of the Thuum, they could kill you by uttering a single word.
Big booty
Well,
bitches!
not that they would. They seem peaceful, but I wouldn't want to provoke them.
LBM!
Well, there's
The power of the
occasional
BBC.
wolf pack or stray, but that's all I've ever had to deal with. Shouldn't be a problem for the likes of you. Other than that, watch your footing. In these wintry conditions, the stairs can be treacherous. Not today. I'm just not
Hello,
ready
my
to
friend.
make the climb
What
to
can I
High
do for you on
Hrothgar.
such a fine
The
day?
path isn't safe.
My father taught me an important lesson many years ago. He said, Gwilyn, you have the whole world before you. Go out and experience it. Be whatever you want to be. So I took his advice, and here I am. This life might not look like much to you, but I'm content. And isn't that all that matters? I always thought it was odd that there's a layer of thick clouds covering the peak of the mountain above the monastery. Huh. Not sure what's up there, but I bet the Greybeards know. Aren't the Greybeards expecting some supplies?
Yeah. So I could kill you. And take everything you got, you know? You got a little something.
Honestly, I'm not certain. I've yet to...
What you got? Everything same. I ain't really got too much, but I
Allowed
might
into the
come back for them
monastery.
keys, my boy.
Perhaps one day.
Damn. Poor little goat. Didn't stand a chance. Oh, Billy goat. You got some meat, though. I'm gonna take that off your hands. We're gonna throw that on the barbecue later. Let's see if I can like boost the brightness a little bit. I think I gotta boost it up, but we're about to see gameplay. Let's play. Alright, it's already boosted. Alright. Why is there a big ass fucking crab? No, that's a fucking spider. This shit don't get old. Thanks, you. Take that off your hands. Thank you. Fold them like a motherfucking omelet. After we do this mission, or I'm probably just gonna take the guns off of them, because like I said, it's gotten too easy. The accuracy is crazy. I still want to keep the Star Wars aesthetic, you know. Oh shit. It's good, cuz. Hey. Hey.
Keep an eye out for wolves if you're headed up the path to High Hrothgar. They're not the sort to take. Some folk who make the trip leave them food or other essentials, but not to make conversation. I like to spend time up here, walk the steps, meditate on the emblems. Doesn't hurt when I bag some game along the way. I did. Strange days when the monks will do that. I wonder what it means. Good day.
Why everybody so broke? Alright. Now do a quick save. Oh shit. What you gonna do? Come on, man. Free it. Man, you dead. About as fuck. Dead and gone. Dead and gone. Alright, let me keep going on. Alright, so. Oh shit! Oh shit! Oh shit! Oh shit! Shit. Stop marring the sword, my brother! Stop! Hey! Freaking saber-tooth tiger, bitch ass! Thunder! The sword animation either. It's going. There we go. Watch my surroundings. But yeah, I'm just keep my lightsaber out. Call it a day. What's in here? Ooh. Take this. Take that. Take that go. Take that go. I'll take that. They don't need it. They did, you know? Trifling. Took the whole offering crate. Oh, see, hold on. Okay, I do. So I do go down. Alright. Is that a make sure?
Walking the steps, meditating on the emblems. I make this trip every few years. Just a pilgrim. I'd prefer to leave it at that, if you don't mind. I was just outside Iverstead when it happened. It's an exciting moment. Nothing like this has happened in centuries.
The 5 King, 5 songs. She don't really got much, but I'm gonna let her serve her time. I ain't gonna leave her. I ain't messing with her. I'm not a complete badass, you know, terrible person. Oh shit. Hold on, whoa. What's going on? Slumped his ass. We'll take that off your hands though. Like that, yeah. Nothing. All right, keep going. Let me go and get this out my. That stamina up there. I don't say the points. Janessa, bring your cheeks, girl. Yeah, we're really up here now. Getting close on. Now we already here. There we go. Wasn't too long. Do this. You gonna get clubbed if you try to fight me, bitch. I'ma kill you. Don't play with me. Who is you? Who is you, person?
Need something? Take a look.
Mysterious. Templar. Silver. Take that, take that, take that, take that, take that. Mysterious Courier.
I'd better get going.
Items. Books. Scrolls. Books. It says Templar. Got that. Turn to page 2. I'll let y'all. Enter Windy Cave. Attack the ghost. I don't know what this is. Letter of draw. Alright, read that. Note. Captain. Here we go. Alright, there's ability. You show great ability in your actions that you performed recently. I would like you to meet me near Falk, whatever the hell it is. There will there you will find a temple located in the cliffs that will lead you to the great path of discovery. May the Force be with you. Oh! Oh, this is a Jedi. This is a Jedi, oh shit. This is a Jedi mission. What's it called? The temple near, okay. It's a Jedi mission. I'm gonna keep that. Where is this? Where are you? Favorite that. Got you, got you, got you. Warriors Challenge. Have I read all the books? Have I read all the notes? Treasure chest. Wherever that is. Alright. Alright. That's all the books. Miscellaneous. We drop this. Oh, I think that's everything. I think that's everything. Oh, let me get this cup off of me. Just bowl off. Plate. Water, skin, empty. I don't know what this is. I'm guessing it's like some type of there we go. the camera broke for a second. Hold on. There we go. Alright, save, quick save. So the next mission after this, besides their mission, empty. Get that. I will take that. Y'all don't need that. Give me that. Empty. Give me that. Give me that. And that. Alright. You don't need this. And what's inside here? Nothing. Ooh, some more. Bit of herbs. Thank you. Y'all so generous. Where's my miscellaneous? Store. Boom! Did the mission. She got a backpack. I'm Shorty, where you at? I'm gonna give you a backpack too. I don't think I gave you a backpack.
I'm right behind you. I am sworn to carry your burdens.
You'll be alright. You're used to it. You get used to it, you know? It's all out of love, you know? You scratch mine, and I might scratch. I'm not gonna scratch yours. Sheesh. How's this less than what I got on? That's what I'm wearing. That's what I'm wearing. I really like this one. I'm not gonna give that up until I find something better. Oh, here you go. I got 3 of them. Give. There you go. That's all.
Let's get going then.
Everybody got a backpack? Kill. And I don't need one. I look good as is, you know. Y'all my pack mules. Terrible. Alright. There you go. You wanna talk to me first?
So, a Dragonborn appears at this moment in the turning of the age.
You call me Dragonborn. What does that mean?
First, let us see if you truly are Dragonborn. Let us taste of your voice.
Foos!
Filthy rot! Dragonborn.
I might just use.
Tis you. Welcome to High Hrothgar.
Can I do this multiple times?
I am Master Arngeir. I speak for the Greybeards. Now, tell me, Dragonborn, why have you come here?
For the bad bitches. Heard they, for the good weed too. And I heard y'all have a good poetry session. So, I like the club. I like how y'all dress. You guys are just unique. I like the vibes. That's why I came here to join. All right.
We are here to guide you in that pursuit, just as the Greybeards have sought to guide those of the dragon blood that came before you.
Come on now. Come on. Come on, Dilly. All right, cool.
You are not the first. There have been many of the dragon blood since Akatosh first bestowed that gift upon mortal kind. Whether you are the only dragonborn of this age, that is not ours to know. You are the only one that has been revealed thus far. That is all I can say. We are the Greybeards, followers of the Way of the Voice. You stand in High Hrothgar, on the slopes of Kinnarith's sacred mountain. Here we commune with the voice of the sky, and strive to achieve balance between our inner and outer selves. We are honored to welcome a dragonborn to High Hrothgar. We will do our best to teach you how to use your gift in fulfillment of your destiny. That is for you to discover. We can show you the way, but not your destination.
The way of the forest.
You have shown that you are dragonborn. You have the inborn gift. But do you have the discipline and temperament to follow the path laid out for you? That remains to be seen. Without training, you have already taken the first steps towards projecting your voice into a thum, a shout. Now let us see if you are willing and able to learn. When you shout, you speak in the language of dragons. Thus, your dragon blood gives you an inborn ability to learn words of power. All shouts are made up of 3 words of power. As you master each word, your shout will become progressively stronger. Master Einarth will now teach you Ro, the second word in Unrelenting Force. Ro means balance in the dragon tongue. Combine it with Fus, force, to focus your thumb more sharply. Ro. Fus! Master Einarth is waiting. You learn a new word like a monster. You truly do have the gift. But learning a word of power is only the first step. You must unlock its meaning through constant practice in order to use it in a shout. Well, that is how the rest of us learn shouts. As Dragonborn, you can absorb a slain dragon's life force and knowledge directly. As part of your initiation, Master Einarth will allow you to tap into his understanding of Ro. Now, let us see how quickly you can master your new thum. Use your unrelenting force shout to strike the targets as they appear. Losa!
So this is be my force push.
Well done. Again. Losa!
Okay, okay,
You
okay.
learn quickly.
I learned force push. Hurry! Come here, ha!
Losa!
And oi! Hurasi! I love it. Love to see it.
Your thumb
Love to
is
see it.
precise. You show great promise, Dragonborn.
The fact that he pulls back and like,
You will perform your next trial in the courtyard. Follow Master Bori.
I don't know how these rolls look on me. I don't know. I look like a freaking monk now.
The others do not speak. Their voices are too powerful.
Hold on. It's 8 p.m. There we go.
Look! Accord! We will now see how you learn a completely new shout. Master Bori will teach you Wood, which means whirlwind. Wood. You must hear the word within yourself before you can project it into a thum. Approach Master Bori and he will gift you his knowledge of wood.
Flute. Okay.
Now we will see how quickly you can master a new shot. Master Wolfgar will demonstrate Whirlwind Sprint. Then it will be your turn.
So basically force run.
Master Bori. X. Wolf. Now it's your turn. Stand next to me. Master Bori will open the gate. Use your Whirlwind Sprint to pass through before it closes. Stand next to me and prepare your Whirlwind Sprint. Master Bori will give the signal.
Yeah, I'm sitting next to you. Move, cuz!
Stand next to me and prepare your Whirlwind Sprint. Master Bori will give the signal.
What? Let's go.
I've got your back. I will remain on guard here.
Thank you. Bruh, stop fucking following me. You want attention. Hold on, how are you?
Well, one of... as you wish.
Thank you. Open the door, man. Open the door, man. Open them up. Okay.
Stand next to me and prepare your Whirlwind Sprint. Master Bori will give the signal.
I just did it. Huh. Alright. I just did it, man. Y'all ain't see me? I put so much energy into it too. Let me get. Stay next to you. Y'all cheating now. Y'all cheating. Move out my way.
We heading out?
Follow me.
As you will, my Thane. I will protect you with my life.
Try it again. Breath and focus.
Alright, I need you to come over here. Alright, I need you.
I've got your...
To get the fuck out
As
my
you
way.
wish, my Thane.
Thank you. I need you to get the fuck out my way. Alright. Open the door. Alright.
Stand next to me and prepare your whirlwind sprint. Master Bori will give the signal. Try it again. Breath and focus.
There we go. So it'll be like force run, I guess. Force sprint.
Your quick mastery of a new Thuum is astonishing. I'd heard the stories of the abilities of Dragonborn, but to see it for myself. You are now ready for your last trial. Retrieve the horn of Jürgen Windcaller, our founder, from his tomb in the ancient fane of Ostengraf. Remain true to the way of the voice. You will return. He was a great war leader of the ancient Nords, a master of the voice, or tongue. After the disaster at Red Mountain, where the Nord army was annihilated, he spent many years pondering the meaning of that terrible defeat. He finally came to realize that the gods had punished the Nords for their arrogant and blasphemous misuse of the voice. He was the first to understand that the voice should be used solely for the glory and worship of the gods, not the glory of men. Jürgen Windcaller's mastery of the voice eventually overcame all opposition, and the way of the voice was born. The voice was a gift of the goddess Kinnereth at the dawn of time. She gave mortals the ability to speak as dragons do. Although this gift has often been misused, the only true use of the voice is for the worship and glory of the gods. True mastery of the voice can only be achieved when your inner spirit is in harmony with your outward actions. In the contemplation of the sky, Kinnereth's domain, and the practice of the voice, we strive to achieve this balance.
So balance in the force. I feel you.
That is commendable. But remember, the dragon blood is itself a gift of Akatosh. Do not try to deny that gift. Your destiny requires you to use your voice. Why else would Akatosh have bestowed this power upon you? If you remember to use your voice in service to the purpose of Akatosh,
that it means some
message.
Message.
The voice was a gift of the goddess Kinnereth.
Use your voice. Speak your mind, speak your piece, but understand there's a consequence of every action that you do and don't do.
Although this gift has often been misused, the only true use of the voice is for the worship and glory of the gods. True mastery of the voice can only be achieved when your inner spirit is in harmony with your outward actions. In the contemplation of the sky, Kinnereth's domain, and the practice of the voice, we strive to achieve this balance.
All right.
We study the way of the voice according to the teachings of our founder, Jürgen Windcaller. Very few are permitted to study with us here at High Hrothgar. But in your case, Dragonborn, it is a privilege to guide you towards mastery of your voice. The voice was a gift of the goddess Kinnereth at the dawn of time. She gave mortals the ability to speak as dragons do. Although this gift has often been misused, the only true use of the voice is for the worship and glory of the gods. True mastery of the voice can only be achieved when your inner spirit is in harmony with your outward actions. In the contemplation of the sky, Kinnereth's domain, and the practice of the voice, we strive to achieve this balance. We study the way of the voice according to the teachings of our founder, Jürgen Windcaller. Very few are permitted to study with us here at High Hrothgar. But in your case, Dragonborn, it is a privilege to guide you towards mastery of your voice. Five. Our leader, Paarthurnax, lives alone on the peak of the throat of the world. When your voice can open the path, you will know you are ready to speak to him. As I said, you will know you are ready when your voice can open the path to him. Dragons have always been able to shout. Language is intrinsic to their very being. There is no difference in the dragon tongue between debating and fighting. Shouting comes as naturally to a dragon as breathing or speaking. In mythic times, when mortal kind was in great need, the goddess Kinnereth granted us the ability to speak as dragons do. For most people, long years of training are required to learn even the simplest shout. But for you, the dragon speech is in your blood, and you learn it almost without effort. Dragons have the inborn ability to learn and project their voice. Dragons also are able to absorb the power of their slain brethren. A few mortals are born with similar abilities. Whether a gift or a curse has been a matter of debate down through the centuries. What you have already learned in a few days took even the most gifted of us years to achieve. Some believe that Dragonborn are sent into the world by the gods at times of great need. We will speak more of that later, when you are ready. No doubt, the appearance of a Dragonborn at this time is not an accident. Your destiny is surely bound up with the return of the dragons. You should focus on honing your voice, and soon your path will be made clear. There is indeed much that we know that you do not. That does not mean that you are ready to understand it. Do not let your easy mastery of the voice tempt you into the arrogance of power. That has been the downfall of many Dragonborn before you. No doubt, the appearance of a Dragonborn at this time is not an accident. Your destiny is surely bound up with the return of the dragons. You should focus on honing your voice, and soon your path will be made clear. Sky above, voice within.
All right then. Okay. All right. So, come on, y'all.
And what might you need?
Follow me.
I am the shadow at your back.
We heading out? As you will, my Thane. I will protect you with my life.
All right, let's go. So, where are we going? Do we go back inside? Do we leave? I want to go to Falconer. Falconer. So there's a. Hold on. Falconer. What's this? What's this? Retrieve the Horde of Jurgen Wooden Color. But we're gonna go and do this Jedi mission real quick. Oh. Explore, investigate, join, deliver, complete the leader champion, deliver the sword, craft the iron dagger, give the frost salts, visit the College of Winterhold. Explore, discover the Pueblo, speak bring me to the mouth of telescope, free, return to Kim, alright, no, defeat the Saints, Badnets, down guard, Nordic Jury, Golden Claw, Rising Dead, in the time of need, attend the banquets, bring the beacon, retrieve the horn. Alright, so is it a miscellaneous thing, or I have to actually, it's a actual quest, you know, somebody got to actually find notes of hunters, which one is it? Which one is it? It's like a temple. Oh, use. Okay. Righteous. There you go. Map updated. Alright. Show the ability to let the force be with you. Good discovery. You will find a temple located in a cliff that will lead you to perform. Meet me near Faulkner. Alright, so we're gonna teleport here. We're gonna fast travel. Oh, Faulkner. Faulkner? That's what it's called. The names in this game is weird. They're funny. Alright. Boom! I'm back in a bit like I never left. How y'all doing? I could go on a rampage. I ain't gonna do it. I need you to take me to places.
Need a ride?
Yes,
sir.
sir.
Take you to any of the hold capitals. Where do you want to go?
Give me the fucker. You take me to fucking F. Fucker. Take me the fucker over here.
We'll be off.
Alrighty. Alright. So I'm at least able to teleport it. If you got to go, ain't nothing but a G thing, baby. Alright. Come on now.
I can't wait here forever.
What's going on here?
You ready to go yet?
Okay. Am I glitched? Can they not? They're supposed to take me there.
You'd best hurry it up.
This is crazy. It's not working.
carriage is the safest way to travel. Need a ride? I can't wait here forever. I can't wait here forever. You ready to go yet?
Is it because of my followers? It's tweaking? Okay. So, map. So, this is what I want out to do. That's customization. Oh, is this? Oh, is that it? Forest Temple. I don't want to walk all the way there. But I might have to. I'm gonna try one more time. I'm gonna try a different location real quick. Let me teleport to a different one. Let me leave and come back. Let me leave and come back. Maybe it's just a little glitch. I try to do episode 4 and 5 in the same day. I'm gonna try. Alright, right here. Map. Go here. And maybe it's just a little glitch. Got me wasting money. I don't like wasting money like that. It's getting nighttime too. Y'all wasting my time.
I can't wait here forever.
Then take me, bitch. I don't want to steal that horse, and I will. Just so I can get there faster.
You'd best hurry it up. Need a ride? Where do you want to go?
They shot us again.
Climb and back, and we'll be off.
Alright. Excelsior! Alright.
You ready to go yet?
Fuck it. I'm gonna steal that horse. Let me wait. Wait.
You'd best hurry it up.
I'm in the back, bro. I'm about to spaz. I'm not spazzing, but it's like, bro, like, it's just a glitch. All right, I'm stealing your horse.
I can't wait here forever.
I don't want to wait forever either. But, you know, I'm not going to walk my way over there.
You ready to go yet?
No, because you want to freaking glitch out. So. Okay. So I gotta traverse. All right, testing. All right, my bad. Laid them out flat with the quickness. But I'm gonna end it here. Next episode, we will be going towards the Forest Temple and try to figure out what goes on in the business. Let me go and get back on the horse. Nope, get over here. Now I am the horse. I am the horse. Be one with the horse. I'm gonna just leave it like that. Okay. Ugh. We can't have nothing perfect, so I'm gonna end the stream right here. I appreciate y'all just tuning in, checking out. We've become one with the horse. You feel me? We've become one with the horse. And that's me and my little, thotty brigade. But until next time, hope to see y'all just chilling, just vibing and so forth. And yeah, we're gonna do our thing. So I'll see y'all. Peace. Yeah, see y'all.